maybe to start off, can we have Michael, since you are the last speaker, would you be able to share like how can digitalization in construction and facades help in decarbonization of the construction industry?
Yeah, I think when we say decarbonization, everybody is kind of like talking about it in the next big thing, right? And everybody now, we just finished our COP26, and you know, decarbonization obviously, it's a big item, and we actually don't know when to start. All right, and because you know it's such a big issue in that sense, but for us, I think everybody have to take their small little steps in that sense, and from a design point of view, we definitely have a big role to play in terms of when we are designing certain things, make sure we do a lot more now, like say what I mentioned earlier, modular, right? Modular construction, and we try to make things that are a bit more long-lasting, more durable. So you design things that are more, instead of just looking at aesthetic, where previously we really focus on, now even the architects now has already, moved towards something that is, okay, I mean a bit more holistic. We look at maintenance, if you look at replacement, if you look at how we actually going to recycle this element at the end of the day, so plug and play, we can put it back, we can install it today, but at the end of it, we may be able to take it out and then reuse and recycle. So I think from that front, as designers, as engineers, that's where we can add value in that sense.
Michael, thanks for sharing your thoughts. I do agree we have to move beyond. Of course, aesthetic is still important, but to have that holistic view. So having to say that, maybe I'll move to Daniel. Could you also, I mean, we have heard from you about the digital workflow. Would you be able to share with us what is the biggest challenge in the digital transformation for ONG&ONG Group?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Gwen, for the questions. Okay, so in our context is perhaps apart from implementing those tools, I mean tools perhaps is the easiest part. The biggest challenge would be to change the mindsets of the people, to change the mindset of our staff and the whole entire, I guess, from the management all the way to the staff level as well. Right. But I think I guess for us, it's lucky that we have a good support from the top, as well as the from the bottom up. Also, the staff is keen to learn new things. So I think the key thing here is like, yes, mindset is the main kind of a challenging part. So if the staff keep want to do the old ways and don't want to change with the new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things in design, then that will be, I think that's the one that can, I guess, pull you back from the progress. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Definitely, change of the mindset is very important, and having the buy-in of the whole team as well as the industry. So let's move on a little bit to talk about the material side of the things. So Salva, you have shared with us about optical distortion. So we do have a question that asks, optical distortion sometimes comes from glass processing. So in your point of view, are the optical distortion from glass processing bigger, smaller, and how do we add that up when it comes to glass bending in a facade?
Okay, so the distortions certainly can come from the processing in terms of roller wave, in terms of edge kink, in terms of overall glass bending. Of course, they add up poorly. We cannot really predict them, but we can regulate them. Usually the standards of any country, so Russian, European, American, they are quite lenient on the glass processor in this case. So 3 mm per meter is allowable, no questions asked. It adds up to the glass bending because of the climatic loads. But the best thing to prevent this is to, again, predict. So when you're doing something for when you're planning to build a building, make a list, state your demands, state your requirements clearly, and then control them. That is the best thing you can do. So they can be estimated, yes, but that's not a question of digitalization or math. It's just, you know what can happen, so you regulate it in advance. Best way to do, best way to go.
Thank you, Selva.
Thanks, Gwen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We also have a question for Malvinder from the audience. That is, with regard to safety, if we have a tempered glass and put a safety film on it, how is the performance as compared to laminated glass?
Okay, so when we talk about safety films being applied on a tempered glass, I believe those are applied on site. So these are applied like when the glass is being installed or post the installation of the glass. So then durability of those films will always be a question mark, because if we look at the lamination process, that is done through nip rolling and followed by the autoclave process. But these films which we are talking about, these films are applied at the site, not under the influence of heat and pressure. So they have a tendency to come off the glass surface after some years. And I have personally seen such films being used on glass railing applications as a retrofit measure. But as I mentioned before, these films have got a lot of durability issues, and one can easily scratch those films from the glass surface very easily. And when we talk about security applications, because these films are safety films and they don't have got the hard coat scratch resistance anti-scratch coating on their surface. So for that reason, there is no fair comparison between the two, I would say.
May I add up, if I may? Yes. Because I've been working 6 years as a chief technologist. Even if the film, if applied on the factory side, I mean, not on the building, there are two things. First, as Malvinder said, it scratches far easily, but the most important thing, that the thermal expansion coefficient of glass and of the film is very, very different. And so the film will with certainty go off eventually. Yeah. And that is the main thing for the lamination. Sorry for adding up, but from my experience, film is a substitute.
Thank you very much, Slava. I wasn't aware about these films because I know my PVV and my Sentry glass. I wasn't really aware of these films. Thank you for this point. Yeah, thank you.
Since we are on the topic of digitalization, I was thinking maybe I'll just share a question just to tap on the expertise. So for the expertise here, what do you believe is the most promising digital design process or even material breakthrough that will have the greatest influence on the future of our facade in the next 3 to 5 years, whether it is a contribution to productivity or sustainability aspect?
I would say, okay, maybe I would say the simplest thing, but the complex design. And the complexity of design is constantly rising. So for my opinion, the complex design, which is we will look into the future more and more, will include thermal performance, energy performance, comfort, estimation, and with all of these shading devices, which were seen in the first presentation. That is a good thing. This complex design can give you a lot and lets you plan a lot in advance. Combined with calculation tools, and way to go. That's my opinion again.
Thank you, Silva. Yeah, I think designs are getting more complex, and that's definitely digital tools like advanced calculation will help us to achieve that, as you mentioned. So
I have a goal with that. I think, yeah, on one hand, we are seeing a lot more ambitious design, right? Complex design. That's you can realize it using technology and tools and But on the other hand, you look at it when we start looking or putting the carbon story into all of this, the whole equation may just change, right? If you look at aluminium and glass, right? These are the two materials that are familiar to me. Because steel and all that, these are all very intensive, carbon intensive industry, and frankly, they use a lot of energy to actually make the raw product, right? And in fact, 70 to 80% is your scope 1 and scope 2 carbon, and essentially we got to find ways if we want to get to that 1.5 to 2 degree reduction, right? We've got to find ways to cut some of this out, and I don't be surprised eventually, we will use systems technology to actually help us not to go there, not to go so complex, back to basics, a bit more simple, to me, I think that could be a story, possible in probably the next 2 or 3 years.
I think to add up to Michael, the biggest advantage of the digital tools is that they not only give you how much carbon you are saving, that is all good, but for customer, usually much more convincing thing is money.
Yeah, of course.
So for him, digital tools can help you evaluate the savings and convince the customer to make the building better. So it all go hand to hand in this case. So digital tools are very useful for this particular thing.
Yeah, agree. I think in today's context, obviously, a lot of things talks about cost, ROI, and but imagine if your carbon tax is 5 times of what it is now, then we will be looking at different ROI now, a different story.
Correct.
Michael, I'm not denying the carbon thing. No, I'm just saying that they are going together.
Yes, so I think it will be interesting if there's a tool that can help to calculate, like what Michael said, the scope 1 and scope 2 in terms of the embodied carbon that comes with it. And because of the use of maybe higher performance glass, as Pilkington is offering, or even special laminates, such that it can generate energy efficient from the operational carbon. And whether at the end will it be able to offset, I'm not sure. But I think it would be great if there's such a tool that can help to calculate, to help the industry to make the best decision. So Daniel and Malvinder, do you want to share your insights? Or what you think will be the promising things for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes. So I mean, the whole thing about digital is about data, right? I mean, we talk about BIM, it's a building information modeling. I think the key thing here is more on the information, right? It's rather than the model itself, because the more data that you put into the system and the platforms and in the project, right? I mean, is a lot, is huge. Like I mean, we're talking about, like, perhaps if you have a collections of all the projects that you have over the past 5 years or even few years, for the past 2 years even, right? I mean, all these data actually can help for your future design. So then the thing with the technology, with the data minings, machine learnings and AI, I think that's the one that can help us to actually to make sure that our design is more green and is more kind of, I guess, carbon friendly, right? At the end of the day, BIM and the whole VDC and IDD is about to achieve a low carbon economy anyway. So it's like, we are in that process. I guess it's a long journey, but I think we have a good base now with the effort of the industry to push into building information modeling, getting into the FMA, like, design for manufacturers and assembly, because all of this is actually to, apart from make us more productive, but also less wastage in terms of the the productions and all that, right? Because because you model it first, you do it virtually first before you actually produce it in a factory, right? So then you can actually estimate, right, how much wastage you can actually save and so on, and make sure there's no mistakes, right? Because in the past, without technology, you just do it and then suddenly you have to knock the walls again on site and then build it again, right? I mean, that is kind of too late already. But now with digital tools, you can simulate everything with in a virtual environment before we actually build it. I think this one, the whole thing is actually can really helps achieving the low carbon thing. Yeah, especially now with the automations, with all the robot helping us, right? All this kind of stuff with the AI and things. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
definitely
we are in the right
data and
direction.
machine.
Yeah.
Sorry, Malvinder, were you saying something?
Yeah, so I have also similar thoughts, and we, as the manufacturers of the interlayers for laminated glass, so I think the biggest challenge for us in the coming years would be to make our products, which are C2C, which is like cradle to cradle certification. They have the C2C certification, and they have got very low embodied carbon content. So when we talk about the laminated glass as a complete application, so currently it's not like commercially very much viable to recycle the entire glass, laminated glass, because delaminating the glass of the interlayer from the glass, that's a very big challenge, and it's some companies have actually ventured into this area, but it's not on a very commercial level. But I think as the governments of various countries, they are striving to reduce the carbon footprint of the buildings. So I think this will become more and more important for us to come up with more innovative solutions where, not only the interlayer, but the glass as a complete unit can be recycled, yeah.
Thank you. I think the takeaway for us is definitely, digitalization, big data, machine learning is going to help us to have new collaborations, new innovations, and to address some of the challenges we have in our industry, like, how to decarbonize, achieve sustainability, and yet, aesthetically still a very nice design buildings. So I think we have now come to an end of the webinar.